What is going on, wrestling fans? Welcome to the Tapped In Indie Wrestling Podcast. I am your host, Heath Mulligan, joined by Nick McDaniel. Nick, happy early Thanksgiving to you and yours. How are you, my man?
Doing good, man. You're right. This thing will air the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, and this is kind of one of our favorite weeks. My wife is off all week. I am kind of off all week, I guess you could say. WrestleCade's just around the corner. It's this Friday. We'll be on the road heading to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Quick shout out, by the way. If you're any type of a wrestling fan, I can't recommend WrestleCade enough. I know you could, if you're close to the vicinity, you can still get single day tickets and go in and hit that. Tracy Myers and Brian Hawk do an amazing job for WrestleCade. I can't put it over enough. Have you ever been?
Yes, we went a couple of years. We went. We may have been the last year. It was downstairs. We were there the year it was the Hardys and the Horsemen, and it was nuts down in that lower level. But yeah, we've been a couple of years and had a good time. We actually got a table. The last time we went, we were a vendor and had John Schuyler with us, Marty Jannetty. They were great to work with and had a good time. And yeah, I mean, there's people you can meet there. Has it become, I mean, other than maybe outside of the WrestleMania conventions, I think WrestleCade has become the go-to wrestling convention in the United States.
I would say absolutely. Look, I know there's WrestleCon. That's another big one.
Yeah, that's during WrestleMania week. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Outside of that, I think it's the big one.
I agree with you. Look, I know because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, what about?" And then there's a lot of the people at it that like at like San Diego Comic Con, like those at Comic Con conventions. There's a lot of wrestlers there for some reason, a lot. But standalone, because here's the thing, dude. It's not just one day. Like this thing has become Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, loaded beginning to end. And look, like I said, it's just for what Tracy and Brian have done over the years to watch this thing grow, even just from the time we've been going. We were going pre-COVID. We had already started going. We've met so many people there. I mean, not just wrestlers. We've become friends with a lot of guys. Friends of the show and that kind of stuff. It's an amazing thing. I cannot put over WrestleCade enough that it's an experience. It's 1,000% an experience.
Whether you like just meeting folks or hanging out or actual wrestling action, like you said, when they first started, it was just that one day event, and now it's expanded into they do stuff Friday night, it's all day Saturday, and then they do the stuff on Sunday. So it's a full weekend. It's very good, and always a good time. And here's the thing, Tracy and Brian, they just do a really good job. They do a really good job, and speaking of doing a really good job, speaking of things to be thankful for, we are so thankful for our members and our patrons. Make sure you go to patreon.com/tappedoutpod. We've been putting out more and more stuff on there. We're grateful for our members. We're not doing the YouTube memberships anymore. We talked about that a few weeks ago. But hey, you can still subscribe, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Here's what we need you to do. If you are just a casual viewer, if you're just a viewer, not a member, we're still grateful for you. But by hitting that like button, by hitting the bell, it helps our algorithm. And doesn't cost you a thing. So if you're like, you know what, I've only been watching this show a couple months, go back through. Again, you can just scroll through. Like. It helps us out. And it's good stuff. Man, let's jump right in. It was a full weekend, starting with Full Gear on Saturday. Full Gear 0 Hour started there out on YouTube, and that is where people saw this big match between QT Marshall and the Big Boom AJ. These people, the Costco guys, as they call them, I had not heard of them until, saw a clip here and there. They've added the Rizzler to their, what's the word I'm looking for? Posse? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. These people are over on social media for a variety of reasons. And, this was an entertaining match for me.
So, yes, let's start with the part one about, like, I got a lot of the, because I wanted to ask you specifically about this on the air. I didn't want you to have a pre-answer. A lot of pushback came out from, look, and I get it. A lot of the AEW base pushed back to some extent, right? And then outside, by the way, any WWE fan that pushed on this is the most WWE thing AEW probably has done. So to push back on it, you should be ashamed of yourself, because this is 100%. The only knock that I had was, this is a strike while the iron is hot with social media, and that's how people get famous now. We may not like it, and we may not understand it. That's how people get famous. I only wish Tony Khan had embraced it sooner and done more. Like, we had talked about this off air. These guys were on Jimmy Fallon. Like, I understand being on the Tonight Show doesn't mean what it did when we were kids, but he still was on. Like, why was it not utilized to some degree to get more coverage, like on Jimmy Fallon about Full Gear? You know what I mean? Like, why was that tool not done?
There were 100% missed opportunities with this. However, and they did a great job putting this over on commentary, for those that would poo-poo it, AJ and QT basically had a feud in the New Jersey area. They're kind of like, there were people in that crowd Saturday that had seen these guys wrestle on the indies. So you're not talking about this untrained guy. This is like, he has been a wrestler. He is a trained wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
And so this made sense on multiple levels. And it was curious to me, even before this match was signed and they were getting involved with wrestling, I was asking people, and I was asking some of the college kids, and they were explaining to me, well, the Rizzler's not his son. I'm like, who's the Rizzler? And they're showing me. And, it's like you said, it's, that's how people become famous, and you have to type in. Now, like the famous Andy Warhol said, you get your 15 minutes of fame, but you got to strike while people are getting those 15 minutes, because it's a hot, fast ride, and they may have missed out on some of that.
I know they've talked about possibly bringing them back. That may be a miss. Like I said, are you a day late, dollar short, whatever. And a lot of people are like, I can't believe they made QT, do this match, blah, blah, blah. First of all, QT asked for this match.
Yes.
Which leads me to something else. It was kind of funny. Like, we went through a phase, and I'm not trying to attach the two things to similar. I'm not. Trust me. I just wanted to prove a point to somebody. My argument was, I completely understand why now no one had a problem with what went down at Tannery Row a few weeks ago or a month ago or whatever. Yeah, it's wrestling. Like, embrace these things. Look, QT understands strike while the iron's hot. By the way, he got to probably do something with a friend of his from back in the day.
Yes.
That he, full circle, all that kind of stuff. He got it. He took a spear from basically a kid.
Right.
And took a loss, right? Like, it's wrestling. And I was just really like, again, if you're a WWE fan poo-pooing on this, I don't quite understand it, because this is probably one of the most, casual, because we talked about give them their props here. This was an attempt to grow their audience. It's one of the things we're very critical of. They don't go outside the box, and they don't try to do, to bring in a casual fan base. This was. So stop, being so negative on it. I honestly do believe this was a great attempt at it. Now, did they maybe capture every opportunity that was in front of them? Maybe not, but at least give them the A for effort as far as actually like trying something different.
Yes. I mean, I feel like with some people, it does not matter what AEW does.
No.
And do I like everything they do? No, but like you have to take with the good and the bad. And I think sadly, some people nationally have just made the decision where like the niche is bashing AEW. That's that's a niche, and that's a grift that some people are making money off simply bashing AEW.
And you want to talk about a teaser? We're going to discuss that on tomorrow's episode. There's a topic that we said, hey, we've got to talk about it because that's a tease. There's something we're going to talk about tomorrow. They're giving you exactly what you asked for,
Yes.
and now you've made a way to spin that into a negative.
Yeah, I don't understand. I'll just say we watched this pay-per-view live. We enjoyed it. I don't think it was the best pay-per-view AEW pay-per-view I've seen. There wasn't a match that was like, oh my goodness, that was terrible. There were certainly matches. I thought Daniel Garcia and Jack Perry probably went too long. However, I told you, one of the first things I told you about this show, I thought this was Mercedes Monet's best match in AEW so far with Chris Statlander.
Yes, and I find it ironic, and I'll come back to that, I apologize, but you brought up the Daniel Garcia match. How ironic, though, if you look through the results of this show, this was the Heat show.
Yes.
It's all heels, essentially, that won, and that's not a normal AEW formula. So, again, changed it up a little bit, maybe.
That is something we said through the whole show. We kept saying, this feels different than a typical AEW show. Normally, there's multiple train wreck matches, and in a good way. Like, man, that match was, and we're jumping all over the place. We wondered.
Hold on, because I want to jump on what you just said. I love how we hate to interrupt each other, but we do it all. It's okay. The one thing that stood out to me, and I wanted to ask you this again on air because I wanted your instant reaction. It almost seemed like, and I don't know any of this to be facts, so don't let the facts ruin a good story. It almost seems like Jon Moxley had the stroke to go in the back and go, nobody else is bleeding tonight. Nobody else is doing what we're doing. You know what I mean? And so that match for the first time ever, when we get blood, it mattered because we had not seen it through 7 other matches.
So that's exactly what I was going to say is you had the Fletcher and Ospreay went to the outside. You had Lashley spearing Swerve through the barricade, but no other match went into the crowd and fought. No other match had blood. And it was almost like this show was built around not overshadowing the main event. And it was almost like, not that they held back in the other matches, but it was a little bit tempered. And like I said, Mark and I watched it. We both enjoyed the show. There was some good, like you said, it was heat and it was different. And so that's the thing is like, if you're critical of AEW for whatever reasons, when they do, again, you got to give credit where credit is due. And this was an intense show. Takeshita and Ricochet really enjoyed that. I mean, Takeshita, this is an understatement. That guy's a star. Guy is a star. Like, I don't know how old he is, but like, I mean, it was a good show. Yeah, from top to bottom, it was a serviceable show. My biggest criticism always about AEW, every match doesn't need to be 15 to 20 minutes.
Right.
Like, cut a few things. But there was some good, I thought there was some good good storytelling on here.
Well, sometimes that comes down to, and this is going to lead into a point. Sometimes knowing when the ending should be the ending. And listen, we've praised them on a lot. Let's throw in here. Let's be honest. Bully Ray was not so kind when it came to the Kyle Fletcher Ospreay match, and I kind of have to agree with him to some extent. Not knowing when to end things. That tombstone from the apron to the steps should have been a finish. And even if it's like, count him out. If you want, Kyle Fletcher or whatever, like we figure it out. Like, right, we got it. We can get there. Or he hits it and he throws him back in the ring and he pins him. Something like that was your finish if you're going to hit it. Because otherwise, if that doesn't finish you, what can you do back in the ring to beat that shit? That was the finisher.
Right. The one thing I did like about what is it? Chekhov's gun or something, where it's like if you present something earlier, it's going to come back later.
Mm-hmm.
They got those steps out ready very early in the match, but that spot didn't happen till later in the match. So I did like that. I totally understand the point. I mean, that's a devastating move, but I think that's AEW wrestling.
Correct.
I think AEW wrestling is in AEW. That's not and maybe that's the problem with wrestling. I don't know, but there were things. I mean, I would say to Bully Ray, a super kick was the finish before a certain promotion in Philadelphia. Anyway, it was a good show. We'll talk a little bit more about some other AEW happenings or whatever tomorrow. It was a good show, and now they're leading into, I guess the next one is World's End at the end of the year, and then they've got the Wrestle Dynasty show, which is Wrestle Kingdom used to be 2 nights for New Japan in January. Wrestle Kingdom's 1 night, and then this Wrestle Dynasty easy for me to say, multi-promotion show is the next night. And I remember when New Japan was hot, I was getting up early to watch Wrestle Kingdom live.
Has anything fallen more? That's actually been one of the things I've said for the last year or two, that from the time we started the podcast 8 years ago to now, has anything fallen? Because I'm with you. I remember getting up. Remember like Brock Lesnar did an appearance at one. I got up early and watched it and stuff. And I'm like, now, there's one thing to say like, hey, I got up and watched it later.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like I'm getting up at 2 a.m. or 3, whatever, to watch it.
Right.
Major difference in mentality. And by the way, there's a whole conversation, maybe a Patreon, of why AEW is the reason.
Oh, it's 100%. Because the thing that hooked us to New Japan was AJ Styles, the Young Bucks, the American wrestlers you could not see anywhere else on television were wrestling on New Japan. That was the only pay-per-view of the year you could see some of these talents other than Ring of Honor. And that to me, everything that led to the formation of AEW, the Ring of Honor, New Japan, Cody Rhodes, Kenny Omega, Okada, all those things that came together that made it possible for AEW to launch. And in the United States, it absolutely killed New Japan. I think New Japan's business in Japan is actually quite still good. But even New Japan, in trying to do their American stuff, that's just fallen way off.
Yeah, exactly. So
anyway, well, listen, fans, we know you're here for the indie stuff. So we're transitioning. And a couple of weeks ago, we were at Turnbuckle, and we were able to get several this or that's. And this week, our guest on this or that is Nikki Eight.
What's going on, everybody? Another edition of This or That with Nikki Eight here at Turnbuckle Championship Wrestling. Nikki was in a 6-man tonight. Nikki, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, no problem. Thank you for having me.
So, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
I like to say I'm an introverted extrovert.
Yes.
I like to sit in my room and play guitar all day, but I also like to go out and have a good time on the strip.
There you go. So, all right. So, guitar. You're playing guitar in your room. What are you playing? What band are you
Motley
playing?
Crue. This might surprise some folks. Johnny Cash.
Yes.
I grew up in Tennessee.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Chris Stapleton. All of that.
Nice. Now, PlayStation or Xbox?
Ooh, so I currently have a PlayStation 5. I'm a little bit more of a Super Nintendo guy, me with my love for the 80s.
Yes.
But PlayStation 5 right now.
I got you. Would you rather watch a scary movie or a comedy?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm a big horror fan.
Okay.
Big horror fan. Also a big comedy fan.
Yeah.
Maybe something in the middle like a scary movie.
I got you.
Scary movie 1, 2, 3.
So what's your like go-to horror flick favorite?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre is up there.
The OG?
Yes.
Never seen
1974.
Never seen that one.
Oh, you were missing out.
I do not like horror movies. Would you rather play sports or watch sports?
Play sports. So I played football all throughout high school.
Okay.
I could never sit down and watch college football. Never could. It's like, I don't know, something, just the disconnect there.
So what position did you play?
I played left tackle and right tackle, defense and offense.
So wait a minute, what high school did you go to? You from around here?
No, I went to Sell Creek Middle High.
Wait, did you just say you're from Tennessee?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. All right, breakfast or dinner?
Dinner. I don't ever eat breakfast.
I got you. Sunglasses or hat?
Ooh, does bandana count as hat?
We will take it. I will accept.
Bandana, hat, all the way.
All right, this one may throw you off. Last question.
All right.
You got a free afternoon in a busy city. Are you going to an art museum or a history museum?
I'd have to say art museum. Another thing people don't know, I'm also an artist. So art museum all the way.
You draw, paint? What kind of stuff do you do?
Draw, paint. I've done some tattooing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Tattooing.
Well, Reagan just said she wants some tattoos, so maybe maybe you can hook her
Make
up.
some side cash.
So tell everybody where they can follow you on social media and follow your career.
You can follow me at Nikki Eight _ on Instagram, and I believe it is the same on every other social media platform. Follow me and Tommy Mars, the Superstars.
And they are at all the turnbuckle shows. Lots of great things happening. And maybe when you come out to see the Superstars, you will see us, and we'll see you at the matches.
So thanks to Nikki Eight for joining us. He's an entertaining young man, and I don't know how much we're allowed to. I'm looking forward to seeing what's kind of next for him.
Yes, the future's bright for him. He's got the charisma, the personality that's there. I think look, we're excited to see what's next for him, and I think it's probably going to be a positive thing.
He's been mainly in a tag team. Do you think he will move toward staying in that lane, or do you think he's going to move toward exploring singles options?
We've always seen like in wrestling, sometimes it's, comfort in what, they were in a great spot. But maybe this kind of forces to step outside of his box for a minute to see. Because plus, look, if he is going to move into a new tag team, he's got to find the right partner, and all those kind of things got to fall into place. So I think it's a great opportunity for him to kind of find out, like, hey, is this maybe where I want to be for, because look, he could be the solo. The solo rock star. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes, 100%. So thanks to him, and it's always fun to kind of watch these young guys getting started out. Well, let's move into this week's Indy Rewind. Oh my goodness. What a weekend in independent wrestling. Probably a weekend in many ways like we have not seen, maybe ever seen in Georgia. Starting with Friday night action wrestling in Fayetteville, Georgia. And this show had multiple really good matches. We'll start at the beginning and work our way to the end. You had a young guy, Grayson Pierce, who we've been following, really getting an opportunity with Darian Bingston, who's the TWE champion there out of Chattanooga. But Darian Bingston, to say that he's a guy that's high on Action's list, for Grayson Pierce to get that one-on-one match, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and Darian Bingston's, he's done some Southern Honor appearances, and he's done a couple other places. Though he's kind of, climbing that ladder pretty rapidly. Obviously, being that TWE champion out of Chattanooga. So Grayson had kind of been there, but kind of really hit. This is his first solo opportunity, to have the big. And this, they went out there and absolutely killed it, as you probably imagine.
You had Adam Priest and one called Manders, no strangers to each other. That's been kind of a long running rivalry. And it was Adam Priest getting the win. And now it's one called Manders on a little bit of a losing streak there in Action.
Well, I say this with all due respect to the one called Manders, but if you're trying to turn a losing streak around, Adam Priest is probably not the guy.
Right.
Look, I understand the logic. Because if he picks up these wins against a quality opponent like Adam Priest, then you're right back into the mix. The problem is you got to pick up the wins, and now Priest seems to be the one gaining momentum and heading in the right direction.
Yes, and Adam Priest has not only had his eye on the IWE TV championship, he's had his eye on that Action title. And in the main event, Bobby Flacco, who finally, after 5-6 years, climbs the Action Wrestling mountaintop. His first title defense is against the longest reigning, or the guy with the most defenses of that IWTV title, Warhorse. Warhorse, who hasn't been in Action Wrestling in some time. And Warhorse becomes the Action Wrestling world heavyweight champion, taking out Bobby Flacco. I remember seeing that on social media Friday night, and I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah.
So you have the title change Friday night, and here's the thing: it's not like Warhorse is some bum off the street. Like I said, longest running, has a long history of Action, takes out Bobby Flacco. Warhorse is already booked for TWE on Saturday night. He's wrestling. Is it Bosby or Bosby? I apologize. I don't know.
I'm going to go Bosby, and if I'm wrong, I'll be corrected at something. But but
Bosby, who's an up and coming guy, was an SCI Futures finalist, accomplished amateur wrestler. So Warhorse, being a fighting champion, they've defended that Action Wrestling title at IWE, TWE. They're in Chattanooga or Red Bank, Tennessee, multiple times. And Bosby upsets Warhorse. So Friday night there's a title change. Now Saturday night there's a title change. One of the, you have the Action title, which has had so many long title reigns in its history. And now on back-to-back nights, we got new champions.
It was the buzz of the internet. I mean, it literally was for independent wrestling. Because like you said, everyone is aware the Action title is kind of it's a stepping stone to that IWTV championship. Yes. The Action title, it's been everywhere. It's been defended, overseas. It's been defended in other states. I mean, on and on and on. And like you said, it's Bobby Flacco's first title defense on Friday is against a guy who's just like, a lot of people are like, oh, it was a one-off. No, this is not. This is a guy, deep-rooted history with IWTV, with Action, comes in the house. And, my question is, let's pause. Actually, I'll come back to that. Warhorse, like you said, kudos to him, by the way, for stepping up. Because he's like thinking, hey, kudos to the guy for actually just putting that title up the next night. Like, that's a fighting champion. So you got to tip your cap to him on that. Even in the loss, you still kind of have to tip your caps and saying, like, hey, he went out there. He is going to be a fighting champion, which clearly his track record defending the IWTV title so many times, for record times, kind of set the precedent for what kind of champion he is. and just kind of out of the blue. Now, these guys have kind of gone back and forth a couple times, so they're no strangers to each other. But if you're talking this is a SCI Actions Future Showcase finalist. He's a very accomplished amateur wrestler, tough guy all around. Still, yes, I would call it an upset. I mean, and I don't mean that to disrespect,
100%.
Tim, but it is what it is. But now you're going to have this guy. He is going to clearly jump in the pecking order. Now he went from, and again, we're not saying he was obscure because he is a SCI Future Showcase champion. Yeah. But you want to talk about making an impact and jumping up the card rapidly. This is it. This is how you do that. And I think it was just shocking, like you said, for 2 title defenses, back-to-back, or changes, back-to-back nights, and Action just kind of invaded the independent, social media presence by, those 2 quick changes.
Yeah, Action Wrestling, we'll get to them a little later, but I'll be honest, Warhorse, if you follow him, he wasn't making the playoffs this year, if you know what I mean. So him coming in to face Bobby Flacco, I totally understand why he got that title shot. But he got that title shot based on past accomplishments, not necessarily that he was on a hot streak. He'd been on a cold streak. But it goes to show you that any given night in professional wrestling, you can climb the mountain, or you can get knocked off the mountain.
Listen, in the past histories, we've had guys that you get opportunities. I mean, we've seen it in WWE. Guys get opportunities and then they just make the most of them. But that kind of unpredictable, is that a word? Is kind of like, look, Bangers 5 Onlys in Tyrone December 13th.
Yeah.
I got a feeling the new champion's going to be in the house. He's going to make his impression. Because look, think about it. This will be his first opportunity. What about the crowd that left at the last show from Tyrone?
Yeah.
Where, Bobby Flacco had climbed the mountains, getting them out, this huge celebration. And when they come back, if they have not, this is, by the way, it's also why we completely encourage you to follow your favorite promotion on social media, on all forms of social media, because these things happen in independent wrestling, especially a promotion like Action who runs multiple venues, multiple cities. You just don't know. And it'll keep you up to breath. But those people are going to walk back into that building and go, wait, there's a new champ? Like, what happened?
This is a microcosm of the new era of Georgia wrestling. And that is Georgia wrestling is not about the same promotions running the same buildings with the same talent all the time. It is about promotions running in multiple towns, multiple venues, with a variety of talents, and not just multiple towns, your title being defended in multiple states. This is the new era. This is the new way of doing things. And I think as we head into 2025, the gauntlet, like, who can keep up? Who's going to do things the new way, or who's going to keep doing things the old way?
Oh, 100%.
But Mr. Tim Bosby, you are jumping in the proverbial deep end now. And listen, what an opportunity for folks like you and I, wrestling fans, this young guy we don't know a whole lot about. But now we're going to see if he's got an opportunity to really raise his game and really get to a new level, not just in Georgia and beyond. So make sure you check out Action Wrestling. Follow them on social media. They'll be back in Tyrone December 13th, as Nick said. Bangers only 5. New Legacy Pro was also in Franklin, Georgia on Friday night. They had Bull Buchanan there for a meet and greet. You had Alexander Lev. I believe he was defending his title against AJ Black. You had the Wonder Boys getting a win over Sean Nelson and Stevie Ray Frost. Stevie Ray Frost somebody we're hearing his name in multiple places. Stevie Ray Frost, he won 2 matches. Or no, he beat Xander Orrick in the first match and then lost the tag team match. You had Jaden Vane and Christian Taylor. There's Christian Taylor. Again, wrestling multiple nights again this week. All in all, New Legacy Pro, they're a newer promotion. They're trying to build a name for themselves. And if they continue to do shows like this, good crowd, bringing in good guys, but they're continuing to do things there in Franklin, Georgia.
Yeah, and let me look. Yeah, Lev's got a firm grip on that championship. It seems like we talked about it last week heading into the show, and he's going to be a difficult task to overcome there at New Legacy Pro. Hey, you've got the serious, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, but they're doing a great job of entertaining by bringing in guys like Eddie Honcho in and stuff. Who is he's a hoot to see if you have not seen him live. He's just hysterical. But again, they're doing a great job down there.
I've read through these notes multiple times. I'm pretty sure they post their stuff on YouTube. And the match I'm going to is Frankie Valentine and CB Suave. Like, we have to mention that match. Like, what in the world?
Because that's a vet versus vet match that is going to be really solid top to bottom. And by the way, we always say you cannot, if you can't enjoy a CB Suave match, what's wrong with you?
Yes, he is truly in 2024 one of a kind in Georgia. The complete package. And he's wrestling everywhere. He's wrestling a lot of different places. So make sure, against New Legacy Pro Wrestling, make sure you check him out there on social media and YouTube. Another promotion you need to be following, and they're running every single week there at the Royston Dome in Royston, Georgia, and that is SCA. And Friday night was the big debate between Jonathan Feltner, who is the current consultant for SCA, and John the Body Johnson, the director of talent relations. And this thing got out of hand to the point that Jonathan Feltner has posted a public apology for his actions, for his language. But this thing has been building. It's been building. They're having the election. I think we've got, if you go on their social media, there is a number you can text your vote to, and the winner of that election is going to be announced this Friday night at their Black Friday show. Who do you think? Is it going to be Feltner, and what is going on with John the Body Johnson? This is not typical behavior from him. Something's gotten into him.
Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. Right. And that's it. I think he wants to be in charge. He said a few things where it got super personal, crossed a few lines, to say the least. That's why when, Feltner posted the apology, I'm like, dude, no, none needed. We get it. Sometimes people say things, do things that, make us do stupid things. Raise our hands. We've all been there. So listen, clearly at this point, you want somebody who doesn't seem to be motivated by power or whatever, so you would want Feltner to be the guy. But as we've learned in elections in the past, you never know what's going to happen. So we will just kind of wait and see what the final details are. But yeah, that's been absolutely at the forefront of SCA, because here's the thing. One of the things when we talk about tiers of promotions, we talk about leadership. Leadership matters. And leadership can make or break a promotion. We have noticed that clear as day across the state. So
yes.
That's why this is. Look, I know we're going to get to what the other major things are going on, but this is it. This is like a huge thing, and they're going to announce that Black Friday. So if you've had all the turkey and all the food on Thursday, you've done all your Black Friday shopping, head out there Friday night, catch some good old wrestling at SCA and Royston.
And this is, this Black Friday show is the equivalent of their PLE, a pay-per-view. You've got another kind of another feud that's been brewing in the ring has been Caleb Crocker and Hunter James. You know, Caleb Crocker got Hunter James pinned by Kamikaze or Cliffhanger Chris. I'm getting all my Chris's confused. And then last Friday, Hunter James' birthday celebration, Hunter James ended up wearing his birthday cake courtesy of Caleb Crocker. And those two guys are going to be going one-on-one Friday night at Black Friday for the #1 contender. Caleb Crocker has come back with something to prove here.
He has. And look, I get all the reasons everybody wants to be, hey, let's, be pro Caleb Crocker. Look, personal feelings all aside. If Hunter James is listening, and I know he is, this is where he probably wants to hit the record button because I'm going to say something that's probably going to be, to his liking. I love a lot of the talents that are in that building, but the most naturally gifted athlete in the SCA locker room is Hunter James. He hands down is probably the best athlete in that locker room. Probably not the guy. So I'm going out on the ledge and saying Hunter James will be your, and here's where I'm going with this. He is going to be your #1 contender. That's just my personal opinion, which will lead him into a head-to-head conflict with that giant monster Tower, who's, what is he at now? Over 225 days as your SCA champion. We've talked about you needed a guy that was maybe the size that could go toe-to-toe with Tower. And the more I've thought about it over time, Hunter James could be the guy.
He absolutely could be. However, Tower has first got to get through drops this Friday night. And here's the thing. I had not thought about this. Drox has something that everyone that Tower has kind of torn through in these 225 plus days. And that is Drox has Taran in his corner to offset. We got to come up with a good name for Rick Page. The Weasel, the whatever. I don't even know.
I like Weasel. I think that's really pretty good for him.
I feel like I'm disparaging Bobby Heenan by calling Rick Page. He is a weasel. He's not the weasel.
What is he, a rat maybe? He's a level below the weasel. He's a rat.
That may be disparaging to rats. I think going into Friday, because Drox has Taran in his corner to offset Rick Page, I think he's truly going to get a one-on-one match. And I think Drox has the momentum. And so the question is Hunter James going to be challenging Tower, or is he going to be challenging Drox? I think if Drox wins, it still go right in there as a major upset. But I think he's got a better chance than anybody else that Tower's faced here in almost this 2 quarters of a year.
Yeah, up to this point, that is correct. Like I said, it's just, my argument would be, unfortunately, for that locker room, I think Hunter James is probably kind of poised to, if he can pick this win up, to be your next champion. And Lord help that locker room if that's the case. Because here's the thing, again, this is just us being objective and not, based on personal opinions. He's got a history across Georgia. He's defeated Judias. I mean, he's the beaten guy, big man. So it's not like he has all the tools to be that champion. But again, Tower's got to get there. He's got to get through Drox. And I think that's the true test that you'll find out Black Fridays. Can he do that?
Yes. And here's the thing about SCA. Because they run every week, you're not only going to hear about them on this show, about what just happened, but tune in tomorrow to the Tapped Out show, and you're going to hear even more analysis and updates about this Black Friday show. So check them out on YouTube. You can watch all the angles leading up to this big show and be ready for it. Saturday, it was a big night down there at the American Legion in Augusta, Georgia, as IWE hosted Kings of Controversy, as they have been on this path to War Games now for several months. And we finally know now who the War Games teams are going to be. You had Joe Black was the team captain for Team Kitchens. Rob Killjoy was named the captain for Team Blackman and IWE. So here it is. You got Joe Black. You know he's bringing in his hierarchy buddies. Murder One, Kenway, Shug D, who is your new Mayhem champ there in AEW. And they pulled out all the stops to recruit former hierarchy member Skrilla to join them. But if you've been following IWE, Skrilla's kind of had a change of heart. And so it's going to be James Caleb Kitchens being that fifth man. Let's talk about team hierarchy first. Kitchens has wrestled before. Kitchens has been a wrestler. His last match would have been against Josh Hancock for control of Viral. And not to bring up old wounds, but so far Kitchens is 0-1 in matches for control of a company that he has been personally involved in.
But he's 2-0, as he likes to point out, in War Games matches.
That's also a very good point.
So here's my problem. Kitchens likes to tout that statistic. I saw it on his social media.
Mm-hmm.
With all due respect, I'll push back. Typically, there's somebody of the same, I don't want to say experience, because he's been in wrestling a long time.
Yeah.
But it's one thing to be in there and it's another promoter, an owner, or whatever, versus when we get to who that other team is. Listen, this isn't, okay, maybe it is. I was going to say this isn't a knock, but clearly James Caleb Kitchens is the weak link of that team. We're going to take the other side off of that team. If you're like, hey, if you're a strategist, that's the piece of the puzzle we need to go after.
He is the J.J. Dillon of this team in this War Games match.
Absolutely.
He is the one that's going to get targeted. Rob Killjoy, again, was named the team captain. He selected Billy Brash, Owen Knight. He also mentioned or named Skrilla. And then following the main event where White Mike got, a handful of tights to pin Billy Brash, and White Mike thought Rob Killjoy had come out to name him as the final member of Team IWE. But it was not. It was the returning Coach Mikey, who had been fired by Kitchens earlier in the year. Coach Mikey is the fifth man. And to me, that has given a clear advantage to Team Blackman and Team IWE as we head into the War Games. Because Coach Mikey, Kitchens said it himself, Coach Mikey is the heart and soul of IWE.
The absolute epitome of the ghost of Christmas past coming back to haunt James Caleb Kitchens. Like, how convenient we're in the holiday season that, look, this is the mistake you made a year ago.
Yes.
And the angst and the anger and the sheer revenge building up. Wise man once told me that spite is a very strong asset. Kitchens firing Mikey a year ago, not quite a year ago, but we'll call it, close to a year ago, has every reason to want to, help get his hands on Kitchens, get his hands on the hierarchy, and rid IWE of them. So this may be, at his own doing, may be his downfall.
You know who, to me, the thing that impressed me the most about this as I've thought about it is, that Tim Blackman, more than anything in the world, wants to get his hands on Kitchens. Blackman's a former wrestler. He got physically involved in the War Games match last year. And yet in this moment, he picked Killjoy. He trusted Killjoy. And he could have gone to Killjoy Blackman, and Blackman could have gone to him and said, hey, man, they got kitchens. Put me in. Let me be the guy. Like, give me the opportunity. But no, he kind of said, you know what, Rob, I trust you. And I want my company back so badly. And I know that Coach Mikey, I know the team that you pick gives me the best chance to get the control back in my company and like bring some stability back to IWE and rid them of kitchens and,
kudos to Tim Blackman for putting his ego in check for a moment. And that's
yes.
not a knock. Put your ego to the back burner to make the right decision for the team.
Do you think also, because here's the thing, you and I were there for that War Games match, or I was there for that War Games match. I think Blackman went into that last year. I think his ego got the best of him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's learned from that. And now the whole city of Augusta is hoping he gets back control of that company.
Before you move on, I'm going to ask you, there's two things that if you listened closely, you heard, and it does make you think. We just sit here and praised smart decision, keeping ego in check, et cetera, et cetera. There's two things that I have in the back of my mind. Just two small things to worry about if I'm Team Blackman. Ego's a strong thing in pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Owen Knight was your captain last year. He is on your team, but he is not the captain. He is the people's. He is literally. My question is there any ego bruising by being bumped from that spot by Rob Killjoy? Just a thought. Not saying it's a thing. It could be nothing. I could be overestimating. But look, wrestlers are prideful people. Did Tim Blackman not make that move because he was the captain and he lost last year? So keep that in the back of your mind. Number two, Skrilla has a huge question mark beside him.
Yes.
People change. People learn. People improve themselves. I'm all for that. Skrilla did some things as a part of the hierarchy that you got to be willing to overlook. That is a trust factor that we're saying that Tim Blackman gave Rob Killjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot. This ranks right up there with the Sting War Games. Is it Sting? Is he Sting Team WCW or is he NWO? This is right there, kind of in that thing. Can you trust Skrilla? Is the question mark. I would like to think so. I would say so. But there's a bunch of people out there, I guarantee you, that are asking that question. Can you trust Skrilla? Because once all of the members are in that War Games and those doors shut, 5-on-5 is awesome. 6-on-4 is not a good place to be, no matter who your team is.
Right.
So,
here's the reason I'm going to give Team IWE the advantage here. When you look at team hierarchy, that's their gun is loaded. Like, that's their people. However, on the side of Team IWE, you still have Cody Fluffman, who was in that War Games match last year. You still have 3 members of All-Star Special, who I'm assuming will be there in January. So, like, I think Team IWE has the numbers because there's guys not in that War Games match that still want a piece of the hierarchy. But I don't think unless, now again, money talks. But it's going to be interesting. And I think I told you this. I have a work thing that weekend and will not be able to be at the War Games. That was on my calendar. I'm still trying to get out of this thing, but I want to see it. Now, here's the thing. Kings of Controversy was live on IWTV. And I'm hoping War Games will be live on IWTV because I will be in a place where I can watch it. So
correct.
IWE is ending the year hot. And good stuff. Cornelia, Georgia hosted a special fundraising night at the home of OSWA. It was one night only, as Cornelia, Georgia was given, basically a hardcore show in the vein of some old Anarchy shows. Again, hardcore show, 2 main matches. Alex Keitel and Cody McCulley, friends, rivals, partners,
yeah.
everything. It is the tale as old as time. These guys wanted to have this death match. And it was Cody McCulley getting the win into the end. But it's always entertaining to see, almost like it was almost like their love letter to Cornelia, Georgia here.
What is wild, as look, death matches kind of come back to the forefront. Some of the, the Blood and Honey series, Nathan Mowry's doing.
Yeah.
And we talked about an underserved market or whatever, in Atlanta. But now we're seeing, if you have not seen video of this or you have not seen any images from it, check out Alex Keitel's social media. There's some pictures in it. What I always talk about is when you want the most violent, it's a lot of times it is a brother versus brother.
Yeah.
It's former partners, even current partners. When they get into these things, absolutely brutal match. If deathmatch hardcore wrestling is your thing, this is absolutely one that you want to see. I mean, I saw still images and I saw video and I was like, dude, that's just it. Those 2 guys are willing to push the envelope to do some crazy things. So again, check it out. If deathmatch hardcore wrestling is your thing, you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, this was again a fundraising show, loaded show. Azrael and Crystal Rose defeated Unrated, Austin Thorne and TJ Trigger in a TLC match. You had OSWA champion Tower defeating your favorite wrestler, Nick Halen. Hunter James didn't have a lot of luck Friday night, but celebrated, birthday weekend Saturday. He defeated Christian Taylor and Drox in a triple threat match. I'm curious, is that gonna get in Drox's head heading into big match Friday? You had Jacob Ashworth defeating Chop Top. Jay Shaw defeated Luke Da Silva and Tim Dorsey in triple threat match. And then bull rope match. Again, 2 guys, no strangers to each other. Jamie Holmes getting the win over Jerry Nelms. I'm curious if we've seen one night only type things happen before, but did this draw a good enough crowd where somebody's going to be like, hey, maybe there's a taste for this in Cornelia?
I think this is probably going to be a year. In some conversations that I had with the people involved, this has probably become like a yearly thing, like an annual thing. We're not going to see it every month or anything like that, but an annual thing. Look, it's run up there in the OSWA building, and they're coming back, by the way, January the 11th in 2025, because they've got some stuff kind of falling out, some big news coming out and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I've got a feeling this will probably become an annual thing. So keep it on your calendar, keep following us, following them on social media. And, I'm just telling you, man, I think there's a market for it. I tell people that all the time, especially in that neck of the woods, man. I'm telling you, Landmark Arena used to be, a lot of, some really hardcore hitting stuff. So I think it's a great, at least in the region, it's a great opportunity for those people.
Yes. Yes. NAWA Classic was in Rome, Georgia for their regular show. This was a loaded show. You had Chris Gaines defending the Heritage title against Kevin Ryan, who I think was making his NAWA debut. Gaines was able to get the win by DQ when Ryan Marks interfered. And those 2 guys, Ryan Marks has been chasing Gaines for that Heritage title for quite a while, and I'm curious what's next for those 2 guys.
Yeah, and how crazy. Kevin Ryan, another promotion where he's making an impact and becoming, right out of the gate, top player. Kevin Kevin Ryan's been on the radar since his early days, the early days of Southern Honor for me. Look, I know he's been around more, but I'm saying that's kind of where he got on my radar, and he's been ever since. And he's trying to make an impact in Georgia wrestling, and more than just in the ring and out of the ring, both.
Yeah, that's right. You had Big Andy and Aiden Wright winning an opportunity against the Rebellion for those NAWA tag team titles. And in the process, Chris Kamikaze kind of getting some revenge on Zero. They've been going back and forth for that heavyweight title. And this show ended with Chris knocking Zero upside the head with a chair. And so a lot's going on, lots of titles on the line, but a lot of animosity and hatred against these guys at the top of the card.
NAWA, one of the things they do well is chaos. Lots of it's just one of the strengths there in Rome. Look, I tell people all the time, if you're in that Northwest corridor, shoot on over to Rome, because there's lots of good wrestling in that area. And NAWA Classic is not one to disappoint by in any means.
That's right. So you're going to see the wrestlers that you're used to seeing, but then they're also going to bring in guys like Kevin Ryan and others. They're doing a good job mixing up. Make sure you follow NAWA Classic on Facebook, and you can keep up and see when their next show is going to be there in the Rome area. Sunday, one show on Sunday that you and I attended. I'm excited to talk about this. Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment seems to be getting their mojo back. What do you think?
1,000%. I think that's the one thing. When we walked out of that show, I made the comment of there's the energy there. You felt the energy.
Yes.
Beginning and the end. I was like, hey, I'm feeling that vibe. Look, they're growing. They're getting it back. They're going to pick up that momentum. That's the thing they're shooting for. But specifically after that main, well, let's back up. It started prior to the match prior to that, which we'll get to in a minute. But especially after that main, it kind of felt special again. Like there was a little bit of a special feeling after that main event.
The highest compliment I could pay this show is you had to be there. You watching this show on Facebook does not fully imprint the energy, the emotion, the vibe, whatever you want to call it, the vibe. Dude, that place was electric. Like it was a palpable energy that you and I have certainly been to our share of shows that did not have that.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've been to shows where it felt like the electricity was shut off in the building. So it was so refreshing. Wasn't a perfect show. Now, it was perfect in the sense they did 9 matches in an intermission in 2 hours and 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh Wheeler. I just can't say enough good things about this show. It had a little bit of everything. You had the hierarchy in tag team competition against Alexander Lev and why can't I think of it? Austin Thorne. Double disqualification. Kenway comes out to make a save. The Scarecrow comes out to make a save. Scarecrow's able to get the win over Kenway, but just like that.
How huge of a win is that? By the way, I don't want to overlook that. How huge of a win is it for not just for Scarecrow, but, and I'm going to butcher the name. It's Gorgon, I think's his name. I think it's what they call him. But he actually just, the Donald Jakes ministry, just as a whole, like what a win, because Kenway, obviously a member of the hierarchy there, makes it a massive win for the, for that guy.
Yes. and Kenway may or may not have had a tambourine around his neck when this match was over. Donald Jakes Ministries, to say it had been on shaky ground in AWE. And now we're going to get a 6-man match. The hierarchy, Joe Black, Murder One, Kenway, taking on the Scarecrow, Alexander Lev, Austin Thorne. And that's when I'm like, all right, what's the date for that? I want to go check that out as well. Because if I'm being honest, I kind of want to see what's going to happen with Donald Jakes. I want to see if somebody's going to get their hands on him.
Yeah. Hopefully somebody does.
Najicism and Noah Vale been going back and forth. It was Najicism getting the win Sunday night, and they've announced for show of the year it's going to be Naj and Noah Vale in a 2 out of 3 falls match. We saw very impressive Big Ben Bishop getting a win. He's now a member of the 3MP. Man, Big Ben Bishop. What a one of a kind talent here in Georgia. Well, I mean, he's nationwide.
Yeah.
But when he's in Georgia, people stop and pay attention.
Look, his in-ring debut didn't this like he debuted a couple shows ago. He made an impact, but this was kind of his first in-ring, and I think a lot of so we always talk about that it's a different crowd at AEW.
Yes.
So they got to see a lot of people. I think got to see him for the first time, and what an impact! Like you said, just you cannot see Ben Bishop and not be impressed because of the size, the power, the agility, the speed for a guy that size. You just can't. I just tell people all the time, if you're just not impressed, like, well, he's got stuff to work on. Absolutely. I mean, he's still young in the business, relatively speaking, but dude, he does not disappoint on any night.
Another young man, I think he was making his AWE debut, a young man that we've seen on back-to-back weekends in Georgia, Tristan Moody, out of the Carolinas. I'd like to see him more in Georgia. He was able to pick up a win, but that is a talented young man right there.
Yeah. Anybody, I always tell something. You want to know how you can tell that I'm a fan? If when you're in your match or literally right after your match, if I pull up my social media and I go send friend request.
Yes.
And I did, and I was like, boop, send, because I'm like, yeah, it makes it easy for me to follow you and keep up with you better. And he achieved that goal. So for me, that's always a measuring stick for me to if you can get my attention that much. And he did.
He did not get to enjoy or celebrate his win very long because Akeem Young immediately came out and he got a win over Eric the World Walker. And then we had an intergender tag team match. Matthew Mercer and Chris Del Rey taking on Alexa Littlefoot and Robin Renegade. And Alexa Littlefoot got the win with a roll up. And then out of nowhere, the most shocking event of the night, Robin Renegade attacked Alexa Littlefoot and put it to her. And that was crazy to behold. And like, what in the world are you doing?
Yeah, this whole match starts because, the 3MP essentially, they're trying to say like, hey, we don't want Roar wrestling in Atlanta or at, AWE. And this match went from a potential like, hey, if they beat these two, does it squash the return of Roar and immediate? Well, it not only doesn't, it sets the table, because my argument was up to that point, no disrespect to anybody prior to that the reaction when Robin Renegade attacked Littlefoot, the reaction that came was that was my first moment of me saying, okay, this was an AWE moment. Like, this is like back in the day, like Roar's back, like, hey, we're building this and it's coming, it's coming back with a vengeance. And that was just the beginning moment of that vibe where I felt like, hey, I can feel it clicking a little bit.
That moment changed the temperature in the building.
Yep.
It was like again, there were 9 matches on this card. A little bit of everything. Got to see some good talents. But that moment's like, all right, we're not just here putting on matches. Like, there's the people. To me, it showed the intensity with which Robin Renegade attacked Alexa Littlefoot. I mean, it was like, okay, this is important. It means enough that she's willing to throw away friendship, throw away the adoration of the fans, throw away whatever to prove something and to take that Roar division by the throat and say, okay, I'm the queen of the mountain right now. Who's coming to get me?
Right. And listen, there's a lot, and people, like, there's a history there. Like, we talked about it in the car coming home. We were talking about my memories of the Roar division of, being Camille, now is her name.
Yeah.
But Sue Young and Priscilla Kelly at the time, Gigi Dolan, Priscilla Kelly. Look, there's a ton. Aja Pereira, on and on and on. Lots of names. But, that's my memories of the Roar division. When I was like, hey, AWE at their peak for me, not saying their peak, but for me, when I first kind of, learned and got into them. And I think Robin Renegade can now say, like, hey, I'm going to be the focal point for that next wave of, hey, everybody remembers. Like, if she takes it at the top, she starts beginning to be the measuring stick of people coming in and saying, like, hey, well, let's rebuild this thing. And let's, we want to be the top of the mountain and Roar. Because, look, with all due respect to most women's divisions, they're not true women's divisions. It's a champion with a rotating door.
Yes.
That's not everyone, but that is basically what a lot of it is. And when they were look, Roar used to run shows, like, not matches on, like, they had their own shows.
Yeah.
AWE / the Roar brand was a women's division, a real women's division. And I'm hoping that that's what we're seeing the birth of here, is that return. By the way, tongue-in-cheek here, I'm going to say, when you get in the ring and you start talking about you're trying to get things banned and things going through certain government offices or whatever, probably want to leave that alone. Let's just leave it at that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The main event, the reason we got in the car, the reason we fought Atlanta traffic, O'Shea Edwards challenging Carly Bravo for that Georgia Wrestling Crown title. Carly Bravo did not come alone. He brought Trisha Doris, Shawn Dean, and Shane Taylor with him. But O'Shea Edwards was representing the hierarchy, who were all in his corner. This match, so much energy. You had the contrast in styles. You had the title reign of Carly Bravo in indefinite peril because of O'Shea Edwards. But I'm going to tell you, Carly Bravo picking up the win, that's a huge notch in his belt.
Knowing how I hold O'Shea Edwards,
Yes.
Just with the history of the podcast and him, knowing the history of Carly Bravo, my thoughts of Carly Bravo for years, it was easy. Because, look, one of the challenges, and we talked about, I said this to both men, it's, you got to make it worth my while to get into the car to come to a show.
Yes.
Those two guys, you brought it up. Those two guys did that for us. We saw that match and we're like, we're in. Let's go. And they, without a doubt, delivered.
Yes.
It is absolutely a match I tell any young talents to go watch. For a multitude of reasons, watch it. Off the air, we could have a million conversations as to why I say that. But Carly Bravo, without a doubt, picking up that win. There's just like the history that's look, when you talk about one of the things that AEW does well, it's the acknowledgement of history, playing into the history, like leaning into the history. The, you know, O'Shea's roots at AWE, the roots with the people that are there, Carly Bravo's roots of the post-pandemic AEW, you know, being involved. By the way, we won't even get into the fact that Shane Taylor, you know, brought O'Shea Edwards to the dance at Ring of Honor the first time, you know, when they were, so they were a group, but now he's with Carly Bravo. So like literally all these pieces are just crossed all over. And again, there was heaven forbid, folks, we had a story in the background. Like there was a story involved. It wasn't just, you know, because a lot of people try to argue like, oh, on paper, like, oh, it's just a random match. They threw two people together. No, they did not. Not in the least. Stories matter in wrestling.
Here, one thing I appreciate about this is you had all these people at ringside, and I think maybe at one point Sean Dean got involved physically in the match, but for the most part, the match stayed in the ring. And it stayed a one-on-one match. And there's so many other things. I think I'm going to do a Patreon and pull back the curtain a little bit about why I really enjoyed this match. You are 100% correct. Every independent wrestler in Georgia needs to watch this match about what sometimes less is more. And the story they told inside the ropes added to the story you mentioned, the backstory. This was, most people would not put this as, oh, you know, no one was saying, oh, that's the match of the year. But should we be talking about it in those terms? I don't know. But I loved it. Yeah. Loved it. I was highly entertained. And AWE's got 2 shows in December leading up to show of the year, December 29th. Is that show on my calendar? Yeah. Yes, it is. Carly Bravo not getting a night off that night. He's going to be defending the GWC crown against Trevor Lee. So put that one on your calendar.
It'd be a heck of a way to end out the year, right? Show of the year, end of December, boom, and he's got to defend against Trevor Lee. No nights off. Carly Bravo, look, he mentioned it, and we'll mention it. Carly Bravo's out there making so much noise in Georgia and in the Southeast that even the guys like Dave Meltzer, for whatever your opinion is of Dave Meltzer, you know, is talking about Carly Bravo.
Hey, if somebody's talking to Meltzer, tell him if he wants to get the good research, he needs to, you know, subscribe to the Tapped Out Podcast Network, and he can find out all about Carly Bravo. Because we were talking about Carly Bravo when it wasn't cool to talk about Carly Bravo. So, Dave, I would say, welcome to the bandwagon, brother. We got room for you. Yep. The big question is who won the week? You know, Nick, we've been doing this, and the one of the things I really love about this segment is I think every week somebody has won the week for a different reason. And I feel like this has kind of helped broaden our horizons, broaden our perspectives a little bit. 2 promotions won the week this week for different reasons. Actually, they've won it for the same reasons. Pardon me. Action Wrestling, we mentioned earlier, back-to-back nights where their heavyweight title changed hands. And it was front page news on social media. When the Warhorse won Friday night, boom, there's the picture of him holding the title. I didn't believe it. I thought it was like, did he attack him?
Did he steal the title? Right? There's something to that effect, right?
Did he steal the title? I'm like, what is happening? This doesn't seem right. And sure enough, you do a little digging, you're like, what in the world? Then Saturday, we were using my phone to watch the pay-per-view. We were casting it to the Apple TV. And so I'm not on social media from about 7 p.m. to midnight. I'm not on social media. As soon as I get on social media, what do I see? Action Wrestling. Tim Bosby is the new action. And I'm like, what? And you had actually shared it and posted it. I shared it with you because I hadn't seen your post. They struck while the iron was hot. And now I got to go back and watch those shows to figure out what in the world happened.
Yeah. I'm going to save the rant for because we're going to get into both. But yes, we didn't have to wait days or whatever. Like, we knew immediately, like, something big had happened. Which leads us to, right?
Yeah. Same thing with AWE. As soon as that show was over, people were posting the Shane Taylor promo of everybody being in the ring, of this show of respect between Carly Bravo and O'Shea Edwards. Like, that's a ring full of talented people. And I think it may have put AEWE back on the map. But again, they struck while the iron was hot and made you realize, oh, maybe I should have gone to that show. I missed it.
Yeah, Carmen Childers from the commentary table, smart enough to know he's seeing something in front of him that's, pretty special, takes that picture, posts it up pretty much immediately. And so I guarantee you there were people that were like thought about going to that show that did not go to that show, that were kicking themselves going, wait, in the Shane Taylor, Sean Dean, Trish Adore, Carly Bravo, O'Shea Edwards, Murder One, Joe Black, Moses, and I'm like, wait, what? Like, all of this is in the ring. And you're like, yeah, you missed out. So at the next show, you probably want to, the whole fear of missing out, right?
Yeah. What is it? What do they call FOMO?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. Could what we saw at AWE Sunday night, that's not something we would see at any other promotion in the state of Georgia?
No. I was trying to think of that. Like, who else would we like? It's like, okay, there's one that I'm like, maybe, and that I can think of, because there's lots of those parties involved. Let's be honest. Okay. I mean, look, not as likely, but could it happen at a Southern Honor? Yes. Because a lot of those parties are involved there. But AWE's the vibe where that thing's going to happen more than anything, I think.
And I need to go back. I videoed the Shane Taylor promo because I was like, I felt like something big was happening. And I need to go back and watch it because I think Shane Taylor pretty much said, hey, this is the kind of stuff that's going to happen. And like, we're coming to make some noise in AWE.
Yeah.
So again, they're ending for a promotion that they were Southern States Pro when the year started. They are back to their roots, and they're not playing around. It feels like they're here to stay this time.
Yeah, and so coming out of basically who won the week, the comments for me are, I'm glad we went to the AWE show because we didn't miss out.
Yes.
For obviously personal reasons, I was planning on going to the action show, did not go on Friday, and was like, as soon as I saw the post, I'm like, I hate that I missed it. I wish I'd gone. So I lived both sides of FOMO on Fridays and Saturday, Friday and Sunday, going like I did miss out, and then I didn't miss out. So I'm kind of like, but again, what made it work? Here's why they won the week. What we're trying to drive home is immediately there was something out there.
Yes.
Like, here's the thing. Take this for what you will, if you're a promotion. If it is 4 days later before you posted anything, did anything major happen at your show? Because if something major happened at your show, and I know people are like, oh, we don't want people to get used to it and miss our shows because they feel like they're going to hear everything on the social media the next day. make it so big, make it feel so big. And when you make that announcement, make it so big that they don't want to miss out. Like if you're just doing matches and it's just results and nothing major happened, that's you. That's not them. They didn't, you're creating why do you have to come? You have to make them want to come. And I feel like sometimes make them regret not coming by posting something super big. And that's what both of these promotions did on Friday and then Sunday.
If you are a promoter, promotion, talent, whatever, and you don't feel that anything at your show was important enough for you to post it the day of the show or right after the show, then why should I care? Why should I care? And I know I've run shows before. You've run a show. And if you're doing that, you're busy. You're doing a lot of things. So you may forget. You got to have somebody there. You got to have somebody that's like, hey, here's the moments. Here's what we want people to regret that they missed being in person for. And you have to create that fear of missing out. It's like, oh man, the last show this happened. I can't miss the next show. I got to be there. And not enough promotions are doing that. And I think in 2025, the promotions that can create the buzz, the promotions that can create that fear of missing out are the ones that are going to thrive, and the other ones are just going to simply continue to exist.
I would suggest that 2 weeks of social media, I should be bombarded by your promotion if you run monthly. The week prior, you should be bombarding me with the stories of what's going to happen. Like, there's a couple promotions out there, kudos, and they know who they are. They post, this match is happening because of this, and this is kind of like, and literally, by the way, you can do it in 2 sentences.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a paragraph. But even the week of, if you wanted a longer narrative, how about something as simple, every day of the show, or every day of the week of the show, there's a match. Here's a paragraph of why with the match graphic. Don't just put the match graphic up there. Tell me why I should care.
Right.
Then the week after your card, this happened. This is where, this is what's coming up next. This is what's going to, and then, so it's just like a constant revolving that you might have a week or so where it's a dip a little bit because people are planning. You could still put out little things or whatever, put video clips of what happened at your show, but there should literally be a 2-week revolvement where we're just almost bombarded.
Yes, absolutely. We are, if you and I, if independent wrestling social media content were food, some promotions would be starving you and I because there's nothing. And then some of it, what you do find is not very good. And anyway, kudos to Action and AWE for making a splash, doing some great things, and for winning the week. And now those 2 promotions, we're looking forward to your next shows because you never know what's gonna happen. And the only way you never know what's going to happen in independent wrestling. The only way to keep up with all of it, that's right, is to become a member, patreon.com/tappedoutpod, where we cover the breaking news, where we give you behind the scenes insight. And we're always putting more and more content out there. And you never know when Nick's going to send you a coupon code to go to a higher tier and get a sneak peek. Make sure you stay up with us on YouTube. And maybe you're like, well, it's just like the audio. YouTube music, you can still get the audio feed there. Anyway, hit that like, hit subscribe.
Hey, I want to throw in here. Sorry to interrupt you. I do want to ask because I had a couple people reach out to me this week. They, asking me. I'm like, Les, you can go to the Patreon page, get a free membership,
Yes.
Now it will let you do it super easy, adding it to your Apple Podcast feed. If you're an Apple Podcast feed, the feed still goes to Spotify. Just looked it up. It's tapped out Patreon feed. It goes there automatically. And like you said, it's on YouTube. It's free. But I tell people all the time, like, being a free member could be good, because you're right. I'm sporadically going to shoot some coupons, for people to use here and there. If you're a paying member, maybe, hey, get an upgrade at no charge, try it to see if you like the extra level stuff and all that kind of stuff. Because look, I think you've sent me like 4 things I've got to upload this week to go into the Patreon over the holidays. So I mean, it's worth it, we think. And listen, and here's the thing: we had guys, and you heard them. Hey, reach out to me. We need to do something. Like, I'm really going to work our way. We got a major connection, I think, this week. Something came through to hook us up with some national independent hookups. So that should be fun. So there's a reason to sign. We appreciate everybody, especially the new people signing up. Look, we're humbled by it. Don't take us wrong. We are.
Yes.
And we appreciate it. So we're trying to give you the value. And plus on Patreon, you can send us messages there about, hey, why? tappedoutpod@gmail.com. You can send us, what do you want that's behind the paywall that we can do? Don't say like, hey, interview Sting. Okay, yeah, no, that's not, but so there's local guys that you want to get on there. Absolutely. Help us help you.
Right. And just coming out of this show, I've got multiple things that I'm going to record some Patreon about. And sometimes they're shorter and sometimes they're a little longer, but the Patreon behind the paywall, for me personally, it gives me an opportunity to work out some things in my head. Kind of everybody can see how my brain works, which sometimes not very well. Well, Nick, as we close up another great week of covering the indie wrestling, any final thoughts?
No, man, make sure you're subscribing. Like you said, hey, subscribe somewhere, anywhere, everywhere. Because, tomorrow, it's Tapped Out Show. We're talking about what's coming up next weekend over the holidays.
That's right. So whether you want to know what happened last weekend or what's getting ready to happen, the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast Network is where you can get all the information on your favorite indie wrestling and your favorite national wrestling. And better yet, hopefully somewhere down the road at some independent show, we'll see you at the matches.